I'm going to take a look at JB Hunt. They're in the middle, clearly in the middle. We're talking about supply chain here. We might as well talk about the people that are moving this stuff around, the shipping and the trucking. JB Hunt's a very big trucking company. What does it mean to be in these unprecedented supply chain challenges as a company? Clearly these companies are under a lot of stress. Their labor forces are under stress, but what does that mean for their financials? That's what we're going to find out. And again, this is our 10th anniversary webinar, so it's fitting that I'm going to do a little spreading financials over time, because that, after all, was the whole purpose of what our company was founded for. The whole reason Pranav and I decided to start this thing was just an easier way to spread financials over time, and we're still at it 10 years later. But in this particular case, we're going to look at earnings press releases, which is becoming a new and bigger part of what we do. And for those who don't know, the earnings press release is the first snapshot that a company releases of their data for a particular quarter before the 10K or 10Q or anything comes in. And we're looking at the one for JB Hunt here. And it has, the important numbers that the company thinks tells their story for that period. And what we do is we take all of these numbers and we put them into our database, and you can pull them up and build a model. Sorry, Zoom is getting in the way, so I couldn't change tabs. So this is everything you just saw in this press release is now also here, extracted into this model builder that I've got. And we're going to quickly build a model. First, what we're looking at here is 2 periods. This is on the left here is the most recent one, and on the right is the last quarter over the summer. So let's add a few more. And we had a question from the audience. Patricia mentioned that looking just 1 year back might not be enough, since 1 year ago was a very unprecedented time also in perhaps the other direction. And she is, of course, 100% absolutely right about that. And yet I am just for the moment going to look 1 year back, because I don't want to burn everyone's time building a 2-year model that will just kind of bore all of you. But it'll give you the point of where we're going and how you could do it if you wanted to. So what I've just done is I've added all the periods back, so we have back to Q3 2020. And now I'm going to just pick a few metrics that I think sort of tell the story. We'll take a look at revenue. We'll take a look at some of the costs. Here's the total cost, operating income, and net earnings. This is all from the income statement. Here you have some data by segment, which is interesting, but we can skip over that for now, because under it we have also more new data from segment that tells, I think, a better story. It's not the financial data, it's the miles and the hauls and the loads, the key performance indicators or KPIs. And I think we'll take a look at, for each segment, the number of loads and the revenue, because this really tells what's going on. And there's one more here, loads, revenue. And then as the final thing, just a little bit out of the balance sheet, so we can see if there's anything interesting there. And then what we'll do is export this into Excel. And it should just look a lot easier, be a lot easier to look at now. I'm still going to take a little more cleaning up, get rid of the cumulative columns, because we just don't really need them for our story, and it'll just make everything easier to look at. Also, before anyone gets confused, we've just changed directions. Previously, the most recent period was on the left. Now the oldest period is on the left here. So now we're going left to right. This is more like how you would see something when you're building a model. And here it is. Here's our data going from Q3 2020 on the left to Q3 2021 on the right. And I think what would be interesting is to see the changes over time. So we can add those in. We'll make a little percentage change column here. There it is. Just gonna extend that down. And then copy it across to the other, excuse me. So those are our quarter changes. And then this, we're going to make a little year, we'll call it year over year. It's really the year, quarter over previous year, quarter change, which will be this one, minus all the way over here. Oops, sorry, this one. This again has to be a percent. So what we're starting to see here, pretty obviously, is that despite all of their talk about stress and unprecedented times, it's actually a pretty good time to be in the trucking industry. 27% increase in revenues. Yes, the costs are also going up. Here's the total, some of the snapshot of the individual expenses. You're seeing fuel, look at fuel, it's skyrocketing 60%. All of their love for their drivers and their employees, that's actually the least growing cost of them all at only 20% increase. Now 20% is a lot, but they're paying 60% for fuel, so they're not, drivers are getting a little bit of a short shift actually. The operating income here up 56% and earnings up 59%. So what's interesting here is revenue up 27%, total costs up 25%. So almost as much as revenue, just a slight difference. And this is the story. When you have a low margin business like this, a slight difference in costs and revenue, and it can really make a huge difference in the bottom line. Your bottom line increased over 50% just because you were able to pass a little more onto the customer than your suppliers are squeezing onto you. So again, it's a good time to be in this business, apparently. Let's look at more of how that revenue is happening. I think this is an interesting part of the story. These are all the different segments, as I mentioned before. Now, the name of the segment didn't get exported, but it just so happens if we do want to see it, we can trace back to the source document and see which segment is which. Taking a moment. But here, this top one is intermodal. I don't know exactly what these segments mean, but intermodal, dedicated, and so on. What we're seeing here is the number of loads, so the amount of work they're doing, the amount of stuff they're transporting, the number of loads. Well, for this first segment, it actually decreased. The next segment up about 10%, this one up a little bit, and the final one up about 12%. So all in all, the amount of work they're doing is up, but what's really going up is the prices. 24% increase in revenue per load, 7% increase revenue per truck per week, 48% for this segment revenue per load, 22%. So what's really driving the revenue increase is not the amount of more work that they're doing, it's just how much they're charging for it. So once again, their costs are going up, they're passing those costs on to their customers, and plus a little bit more, just a little more, and that's enough to really drive a big increase in profitability. Now, we should, as always, take a look for red flags at the balance sheet, what we like to call earnings quality. Sometimes things look good, but beneath the surface, they're not as good as they look. So we just want to double check. There's a lot of ways to do this in the footnotes and so forth. We're going to skip over most of it, but for fun, we'll take a look at accounts receivable. And you do see, yes, accounts receivable is going up pretty significantly and a little bit more than revenue as a whole. So that can be a bit of a warning sign. It means that they're passing a lot of costs on to the customers, but some of the customers maybe are feeling a little squeezed. They're delaying paying their bill. They're aging their invoices a little bit, and you can see why that might happen. So all in all, that's the story with J.B. Hunt, and I want to take a quick look at one more company that is, I think, an even more interesting case because they are another company that's benefiting from this, but perhaps even more so. And this is Tyson Foods. So if we look at this one, by the way, just came in yesterday, as Pranav was talking about. So this is hot off the press. The word is in here somewhere. If you search for the word in right here, inflationary market conditions. So basically the story of this whole quarter is prices going up due to inflationary market conditions, meaning they feel like they have pricing power. They're not going to say that in those words, but basically they're raising prices because they can. And we're going to take a look at how they do that by looking at just one single table here, the segment results, and it happens to be also ready to go here. I'm going to quickly build a model, include the table, export it once again. And what's wonderful about this table is it includes the prices right in it, the average price change. And I'm going to delete, once again, delete some things that we really don't need. And then we'll see what's really going on with this company. Sorry, this will just take 1 second. I wanted to include the bottom table is the operating margin, so we can take a look at that also. And again, the data, the earliest data is on the left and the later data is on the right. So you can see we'll start from a year ago. 1 year ago, prices were more or less flat. They were actually down a little bit, which makes sense because we were in the throes of the pandemic and people weren't going out to eat. People weren't, spending a lot of money. The volumes were up somewhat, depending on how you look at it. The next quarter, you're starting to see things change. Volumes again are down, but prices are starting to be up year over year. The next quarter, this is where things start to really go. Prices are up. The next quarter, prices starting to go way up. Volume is going up as well. And now here, volume down again, but price is really starting to skyrocket. So interesting. Look at how it's getting parabolic almost for this company. And operating margin, this, like I said before, this company is benefiting from this clearly by feeling like they have pricing power. This is not a case where they seem to be squeezed by their suppliers as well. They don't seem to be, putting a lot of it back into their suppliers. They're just getting a pretty good increase in operating margin thanks to the increase in prices. So that's a quick look at Tyson Foods. And if anyone has any questions, please pass them on.